everyone, thanks for joining us today for our New Year, Same You, Micro Resolutions That Stick webinar. We're excited to share some really helpful practical advice and strategies that you can use in the coming year. So to kick things off with quick introductions, I'm Chef Lisa Lavery with Zipongo, and I work in culinary development for our company. For those of you who aren't familiar with Zipongo, we're a digital nutrition platform whose goal is to make eating well simple. And all of you listening today have access to Zipongo Tools through your employer. Joining me as our featured speaker is Kate Schlag, our lead registered dietitian. She's worked with many patient populations in the past, helping them to build sustainable lifestyle habits surrounding healthy eating. And as we go through the topics today, feel free to share questions via the chat feature, and we'll answer as many as we can during a Q&A section at the end. And with that, let's get started. So, okay, it's the new year, and if you're like me, your inbox is filled with dieting tips, exercise goals, and restrictive meal plans that promise to change your life this year. Now, I've certainly given into the clickbait, but none of those diets have ever really worked for me. How about you?
Yeah, I'm with you. Every year we see a bunch of articles and posts about the year's hot new diets, from intermittent fasting and the ketogenic diet to the ever-popular Whole30. But what I've seen is that many people try these incredibly restrictive diets for a few weeks and then give up because they have difficulty maintaining the level of restrictions that the diets set forth, and they never see any true benefits or reach any of their goals.
Yeah, I definitely think that was my problem. So we're here to give you ideas and pointers that are easy to incorporate into your everyday life to help drive your health goals without a huge change to your daily routine. So for me, one of the most important parts of setting an intention to eat more mindfully starts in the planning. One easy fix is to make sure that you always have nutritious and healthy food at the ready. That way, when you're hungry, you won't reach for that bag of chips. And when it's time to hit the grocery store, I always like to have a game plan in mind before I shop. That way I have ideas for meals and I'm not staring blankly in my refrigerator trying to come up with ideas on the fly. I think of food in terms of puzzle pieces that can be fit together in multiple ways. And my go-to formula starts with some sauces that I make that can be added to varied proteins, grains, and vegetables for healthy meals.
I agree. It's too easy to lean on convenience foods when you're tired after a long day of work. Setting yourself up on the weekend by meal planning and meal prepping, if that's something you like to do, makes for an easier meal routine during a hectic work week.
Totally. And I like to have set components from all my food groups in my fridge and pantry so they're ready to go. My game plan looks something like this. Several proteins that I've roasted or have started marinating for the week are in my fridge. So that might be a whole roasted chicken or a rotisserie chicken that you purchase at the grocery store, some lean pork tenderloin that I've rubbed with herbs and spices, or maybe just some defrosted salmon that I can slow roast easily in little time when I get home from work. Then I wash and chop some vegetables so they're ready to be steamed or roasted on a sheet pan next to that protein. And lastly, I cook off some healthy grains like farro, brown rice, or quinoa to serve with the protein and vegetables, or to turn into a green salad bowl with leftovers for lunch.
From a dietitian's perspective, that's a great plan. Another thing to remember when you're building your plate is portion control. Even if your foods are full and in process, like the foods you mentioned above, it's still possible to pack in too many calories on a single plate. I always recommend that people aim to fill at least half of their plate with non-starchy vegetables, things like greens, carrots, broccoli, cauliflower, bell peppers, and then to fill another quarter with protein and another quarter with some type of complex carb, which could be those grains you mentioned, a sweet potato, beans or lentils, or a piece of good bread.
Yeah, all that great cooking doesn't really help unless you have portion control, so thanks for mentioning that, Kate. So after setting out my weekly meal plan at home, I like to also check my work schedule to see where meal gaps might be, areas where I might have to be more mindful about food choices, like an upcoming work dinner or a cocktail party.
That makes sense. If you can get ahead of the game and set your intention to stick to positive food choices, it's harder to slip up at events like happy hours or spontaneous work lunches.
Yep, so if I see one coming up, I'll always have a healthy snack before I head out, so I'm not reaching for those fried bar bites that everyone orders. And if I'm at a work lunch or dinner, I'll scan the menu and order a small salad or a cup of healthy soup to start the meal to help fill me up. That way I'm not continuously reaching for that bread basket or eating a whole entree when I'm really not even that hungry. So Kate, next let's talk about organizing. I have to make sure everything is tidy and in the same place and easy for me to see in the kitchen when I'm cooking.
I'm the same way. If there's clutter everywhere, I can't think about cooking. It's just too distracting.
So I like to label my shelves in my pantry and keep similar items together so I'm not overbuying extra spices, pasta, and canned goods that I already have. Here's a few of my categories. I'll put all of my cold and hot cereals together, and then snacks for lunches go on that same shelf, usually up high so my children can't get at them. Baking items like flours, baking soda and powder, vanilla and chocolate go on another shelf. And I like to put all my dried fruits and nuts there too because I frequently add them to my baked goods. All my spices are in a wire rack, and I label the tops if they aren't already, so I'm not sifting through all the jars just trying to find some coriander. Pantry items like canned goods, dried pasta, and grains go in another area. If I buy anything in bulk, I'll transfer them to a container and add a label and date with some painter's tape and a Sharpie. It keeps that dreaded bulk bag blowout from happening and destroying my pantry.
And it's easier to see how much of that item you have. I try not to buy more than a quart of bulk items, or else they spoil before I use them all. And 1 cup of dry grain is usually enough to feed a family of 4 with some leftovers, so 1 quart is enough for about 4 meals.
That's a great tip, Kate. You know, I always try to stay organized while I'm actually cooking too. Squeeze bottles with various sauces and Ziploc bags help keep everything tidy in my fridge, again labeled with my tape and a Sharpie. And instead of those square store-bought containers, I have various sizes of round deli containers where all the lids match. They stack inside one another and come in 1, 2, and 4 cup sizes to help with portion control.
Those containers cut down on food waste too because you're not making more food than your family can consume in a few days.
Exactly. My goal is to starve my compost bin if I can. Speaking of, Kate, how do you keep your countertop and cookware tidy?
That's a tough one. I feel like the countertop is always a work in progress. My rule is if I don't use it every day, I put it away. I use wire shelving to add space in my cabinets for 2 rows of cookware and lids. Small appliances like my slow cooker and food processor go in there as well.
That's exactly how I do it too. And I'm also a huge fan of drawer organizers. I have so many kitchen tools, and they can get jammed when I try to open and close the doors when I'm looking for something. Using those dividers really help corral oddly shaped tools like whisks, my favorite garlic press, tongs, and juicers.
I also like your idea of investing in deli containers. They can stack inside of one another and keep my food storage drawer from becoming a jumbled mess. There's nothing worse than rooting around for that one lid that goes to the oddly shaped container you need.
That's the worst. And those containers also are great when you put them in the fridge because they stack on top of one another, so you can have several rows of food in there. I'm also a big believer in baskets within the shelves and pantries. They reduce visual clutter, and you can pull the whole thing out to find what you need. I like to keep my aromatics like onions and garlic in them because air can circulate all around and they're less likely to spoil before I get a chance to use them.
These are all great ideas to help keep your kitchen organized.
Definitely. All right, so let's move on to the third part of our micro-resolution trifecta, exercise. So, Kate, I know it's chilly in the better part of the U.S. right now, and it's pretty foggy and dreary here in San Francisco. Being that January can be a really demotivating time to get psyched about exercise, what are some of your tried and true methods to easily work in some movement in your daily life?
Well, there are the obvious ones like getting off the bus a stop early, walking or biking to work if weather permits, and taking the stairs instead of the elevator. I really like standing desks while you work. You can raise and lower them as you need and eventually work up to standing most of the day. Also, take walking meetings instead of sitting over coffee and a scone.
Those are all really great ideas to get you moving during the day. At Zipongo, I divide my time between working at a desk and cooking and testing recipes in the kitchen, so I have a good mix. You have any tips for when you're at home?
Doing a quick wake-up stretch, mindfulness exercise, or some yoga in the morning really sets your day in a positive motion. And after dinner, you can do some squats, lunges, sit-ups during commercial breaks when you're watching your favorite show. You can even track your progress by setting a goal to a monthly build-up program. For example, do 1 push-up on day 1, 2 push-ups on day 2, and by the end of the month, you're doing 30 push-ups.
I love using commercials in my favorite shows to get some chores done around the house, like switching the laundry, loading the dishwasher, or even just getting up to wash my face to get ready for bed. It all helps to get your steps in. And as far as dedicated exercise, I like to hang with friends at some of my favorite hip-hop dance classes or take a hike with our new puppy instead of meeting up at a happy hour.
Tech can also motivate you to be more active. Wearables like a Fitbit armband or an Apple Watch are great for counting your steps, but most smartphones can also do that for you at this point. Many apps recommend getting about 10,000 steps per day, but if that number seems unattainable, just try to move a little bit every hour. You can walk around the block for a cup of coffee, or instead of driving to the grocery store, just walk to it.
Yeah, I really love the ClassPass app because there's so many different options for exercise, so I don't get bored just going to that same studio all the time. That's where I book those hip-hop dance classes. And another app I've grown to love is Strava. I recently trained and ran a half marathon, and it really helped keep me accountable. My friends that ran the race with me were on the app too, and we had the ability to motivate each other and cheer on our successes.
Definitely. And if a half marathon seems scary, commit to just a 7 to 10 minute workout in the beginning. Any movement is better than none at all. You can join a running or hiking club through organizations like Meetup, or you can sign up for a sports league. Most cities have recreational kickball and softball leagues that focus more on fun than competition. Or book a vacation that has some outdoor activity involved that you need to train for example, hiking in Hawaii. Or sign up for a gym that has access to a sauna or steam room if that's motivating to you.
Well, that's going to be my next excuse for booking a trip to Hawaii. I'm going to do a lot of hiking. So I know we covered a lot today, and we just scratched the surface. Let's wrap up with a quick summary of a few of today's takeaways.
The first thing we talked about is how to build a solid food plan for the week. Make your week ahead easy, spending some time prepping different proteins, grains, and vegetables that you can grab and go for ease. Don't forget to pay attention to your portions. Fill up half your plate with non-starchy veggies and aim for the other half to be divided between a protein and a healthy whole grain. And check your schedule to make sure you're prepared with healthy meal options for dining out or parties.
So the next thing we talked about is getting organized. You need to organize your kitchen to keep food easy to see in your pantry and refrigerator, and make sure all your tools and cookware are at the ready and easy to grab. Invest in reusable containers in similar sizes. Kate and I both are big fans of deli containers to store food prep, leftovers, and bulk items in your pantry. And corral like items like aromatics, pasta and spices in baskets to reduce visual clutter and make it easy to find everything.
Mix it up. Some days you go to the gym, some days you take a dance class, and then there's those days where a quick walk at lunchtime or after dinner is all you have time for. Start small. Just 7 to 10 minutes a day is a great start to a healthy exercise pattern.
Awesome, Kate. Thanks so much. As a reminder, we're hanging out to answer any questions you might have. Just submit them using the chat feature on GoToWebinar. So in the meantime, I'd love to share some of the tools Zipongo offers that make it easy to turn many of these healthy behaviors into healthy habits. First, we have a nearly limitless supply of tasty, healthy recipes that can be filtered by your dietary preferences and restrictions. There are tons of options to choose from, including categories like 30 minutes or less, one-pot meals, make-ahead dishes, freezer-friendly, and 7 or fewer ingredients. Zipongo takes the work out of meal planning with custom meal plans. Simply take a few minutes to tell us about your food preferences, and we'll generate a meal plan that's perfectly yours. See something you don't like or takes longer than you have available to cook? Just hit the swap icon and pick a different meal. Once you've made a meal plan or found a few recipes that look good to you, you can add them all to a single Zipongo grocery list. Then that list can be shared with others to help you shop, or sent over to Instacart for quick deliveries right to your house. Zipongo also has apps for both iPhone and Android, which lets you access these tools on the go.
So with the time that's left, let's answer a few questions that have come in. So Lisa, first question for you is, I can eat healthfully all day and then come home and snack on the less healthy dinner I made for my kids. Any tips for getting kids on board with the new meal plan?
You know, I've got 2 kids at home, so I know this struggle. Mac and cheese, pizza, chicken tenders, all on heavy rotation. It's a classic kids' restaurant menu fare. So at my house, I find that if my kids get to choose the menu, they're more invested in eating it. Helping prep and cook also can make a big difference. And we've instilled a polite bite policy in my house. The kids are on the hook for taking just one bite of something, and if they honestly don't like it, we move on.
Those are great tips. So the next question is, what workouts do you suggest for someone who has a sports injury? I'll take this one. As long as your injury doesn't have you laid up in bed, you can still work out other body parts. If you sprained your ankle, for example, you can focus on your arms and core. Swimming is another great option. It's a low-impact workout, and you can eliminate the legs portion with a pull buoy or eliminate the arms portion by using a kickboard.
That's a great question.
Okay, we have time for one more. I have a really small kitchen. What tips do you have for storage and reducing clutter?
You know, that's a really common issue, especially for people that live in the city. So first I would say only invest in cookware and appliances that can do more than one thing. Stay away from what I call unitaskers, like that strawberry corer or the circular pineapple dicer that only works on one kind of fruit. And a good blender can stand in for a food processor. so you don't have yet another countertop appliance taking up space. Also, look for extra space on walls to hang items like skillets and saucepans. Command hooks are an easy way to hang these without putting holes in cabinets if you're renting. Another underused space is inside cabinet doors, where you can attach wire racks to hold spices or sponges underneath the sink. Well, that's all we have time for today. Thanks so much, Kate. This has been really interesting, and thank you everyone for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day.